Welcome back to Kind Regards, the show. A handful of months ago, I was doing a sort of day walk down the coast and I was walking on the beach and I looked to my right. It was a really beautiful day. And I looked to my right and I saw this guy and he was dressed all in like dark maroon, like a reddy kind of color. And he looked like he was in robes. And I looked across and he had this big backpack on. I went, what is going on here? You know, it's not really normal in Australia to see a kind of robe cladded guy. And he was a white guy too. So I was like, it's kind of extra weird, you know? And so he was walking over there on the path and I was walking on the beach and he was kind of gaining on me and threatening to get away from me. So I really wanted to know what was going on with this guy. And so I kind of tried to keep pace with him and I got to him and I kind of gave him a, hey, what's going on? What's with all this, you know? And we got talking and it turns out this guy is a monk. He's a German guy, born in Germany, raised in Germany, and he's a monk in the Thai forest tradition. He's a monk in Thailand, and he was currently doing a pilgrimage from Sydney to Melbourne because Melbourne is where he first got introduced to Buddhism as a young man. And it had been so long since he'd taken his vows as a monk and blah, blah, blah. And so he thought he would give thanks in you know, kind of spiritual sense by doing this big pilgrimage from Sydney to Melbourne. And so he's walking the whole way and he had a backpack and he had some just rough tents and gear and stuff. And he was just walking the whole way there. And so why do I bring this up? Well, because he had a shaved head. He was so committed and he hadn't handled money in something like 12 years. So what did he own? He didn't really own anything. All the stuff that he had on was kind of property of the monastery. You know, the monastery sort of collectively owned it. And if he was to leave the monastery, he wouldn't take his robes with him or his, you know, maroon backpack. He would leave that with the monastery. It's not his. And so what did he actually kind of have? Well, he had a bit of a telephone. I don't know who owned that really. But then, okay, so he's got no money. So what does he eat? Well, every morning he puts his bowl out. He has this little bowl and he puts the bowl out and he begs for what they call alms, which I don't know if you know this, but it's like begging for your food for the day. And so he puts his bowl out like in front of a cafe or something. People buy him banana bread or, you know, a bacon and egg roll. They put it in the bowl and then that's his food for the day. And he can only eat that until midday, sorry. And then at midday, he has to kind of throw it all out or give it away and then start again. So he starts again with nothing and begins like kind of the fast until maybe 6 a.m. or something the next day. Then he has this period where he can beg for alms and eat. And then midday, no more food. And it goes like that forever and ever. So he can't keep anything. You know, if he gets 10 bacon and egg rolls one day, he can't save them for the next day. Begins every day with nothing. And this is a pretty intense lifestyle, you know. I've called it in the past cup life, you know, just life living with one cup, kind of Dionysus. Is that what his name is? Dionysus? Dionysus. The Greek guy who he had a bowl and then he saw a boy drinking from his hands from a fountain and he threw the bowl away because he was like, I don't need a bowl, I can eat from my hands. It's kind of an ancient Greek proto-philosopher guy. I don't know what proto means. I don't know why I say stuff like that sometimes. Yeah, so this guy's living cup life, robe life. That's all he's got with him. And he's a German guy, and I lived with the Germans for a time, and I know that they can be a real conservative bunch. And so I said to this guy, how are your, I don't mean to pry, you know, we'd been talking for a while, we walked for hours, but eventually I was like, I don't mean to pry, dude, but I know Germans and they, especially the old folks, they can be really conservative. How have your parents taken this? And he said, well, my dad, it's great. You know, my dad, he has a little photo of me in my robes in his wallet and he shows it to everyone who'll listen, everyone who'll see him, you know, colleagues at work, they all know about me, you know, his friends at the bowling club or whatever, they all know about me. Even people at the bus stop, if you talk to someone at the bus stop for long enough, eventually he'll be like, this here's my zone and he is a monk in Thailand. It's a very interesting life for him. And that just lit me up. I was like, that's so cool that your dad is so into this and relates this experience that you're having to other people. And that's really nice that he seems so proud of you. And he said, excuse me, he said that with his mum, it's not the same. With his mum, every time he goes home to visit, his mum says little things like, "Oh, when are you growing your hair back out?" You know, "Oh, when can you? I've got your old wardrobe. I've got your old clothes. Anytime you want to wear them, just let me know. Oh, when do you think you might, come home, stay home? Stay in Germany. When do you think you're giving up this business here? When is it over? When are you coming back? When are you coming home? When are you going to be normal again?" Was that's kind of the message underneath what she's saying. Do you know what I mean? And this is a sad thing, and it's this is hard for him. Every time he sees his mother, speaks to his mother on the phone, he pays the price for his strangeness, for his eccentricity as related to his family and his culture, his home culture. And I think that we all face this. I think that we all face the price of being strange people, of valuing other things than the world around us values. And I've talked before about being a Dharma mouse and being a Dharma camel. We walk out there in the world and it just feels like a consumpto city where everything is about extracting every little bit of profit from you and your attention span and the natural resources, and it's all about bloody lip fillers and wearing the hot new clothes and looking beautiful and fake tan and grind sets and being entrepreneurs. Everyone has to be a marketing whiz to get their small business off the ground. Like, it just feels like this spiritual desert out there. And this is really difficult, in terms of having friends, having relationships, deep relationships in a culture that feels so barren. It's hard to find. I remember being single for a really long time because I refused to go on Tinder. I refused to go on like dating apps and services like that. I refused to have any one night stands. I didn't want to do that. And I'm not moralizing here. I was very uncomfortable with that. That was not something that I felt good doing. So it was as much like a hedonistic, I'm avoiding something that is going to be painful for me, as it was a moral kind of stand. And I'm not judging you. I don't know your way of life, and I've never lived another way than my own. So if the path that you've taken has been good for you, I believe you. That's super cool. But for me, it wasn't something I could see myself doing, and it wasn't a world that I fit into and that reflected my values. I felt, and so I refused to do it. And I don't know that many people. I'm not a super socially involved guy, but I'm a weird guy. I don't watch sports and I don't watch very much TV and movies, and I'm not very plugged into culture and the news. And so I have a hard time talking to most people. Like, there's very little that I have in common with people when it comes to the sort of classic conversational topics. And so I would meet a person. I was very lonely. I was a single guy, and I would meet a person, and I just thought, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. You're so normal. You don't care about anything that I care about. I just felt, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess I just felt really alone. I felt really alone. And no matter how many people I would meet, I wasn't attracted to anyone. I just thought it was a desert. It was a desert of potential partners. Every person I met, I just went, no way, dude. I can't do it. I can't even pretend to be interested in you romantically. I can't even pretend. And that's a hard go, right? You might be going through a similar thing than this, where you go, okay, I've got my two best buds and they rule, but I just can't seem to find anyone else who's on our wavelength. Like, when am I ever going to get friends, more friends, or when am I ever going to meet someone that really connects with me, that I can have a romantic relationship with? And it's easy to kind of go, oh, why can't I just be normal, right? Like that's kind of the natural thing. Why can't I just be a normal person who normal people like? Why can't I just fit in? What's wrong with me? And why wouldn't it be so much easier to be normal? That's kind of the question that was always on my lips. And I assumed that this monk would have felt a similar thing. And I assumed that with your eccentricities, we're all eccentric in a little bit of a way, some of us more than others. But I assume that you have felt this. You have felt the price of your eccentricities. And and what are we to do? What are we to do with this price here? I had this conversation with a buddy of mine who was having trouble kind of meeting a lady, and he hadn't had a lady in a long time, and been in a relationship with it's not great phrasing, hadn't had a lady. Yeah, we're not in a Western. He done hadn't had no lady in a long time. Um, and he said to me, "Oh, I just wish I could. Sometimes I wish I could join the army and just be a ciggy smoking NPC." And I just thought that was so funny. It really encapsulates this like desire to be normal. To work a 9 to 5 job, listen to Joe Rogan sometimes, or whatever the most popular things are, call me daddy or whatever. Playing pickleball and doing escape rooms on the on the weekend, and every 6 months you do drugs to get back in touch with your youth or something. You know, is this the life that would really be easier? No, no, it would not. This was my message to him, and it's been my message to friends and to myself. Excuse me. Ever since, it is not easier to be other people. It is not easier to be normal when you are not normal, right? Like we are different. We are eccentric. We have our strange little things, and to be someone else is way worse. Is way worse than following our own value compass, right? Like following our tasks, our life tasks, like our values, right? Like what's the alternative? It's pretending. It is lying every day, showing up to work and social events and the pickleball meetup and going, "Oh, hey guys, what's up? Oh yeah, not a big deal. Yeah, woo." Like it's to be someone else, which means to sell yourself, right? It's to sell your soul, sell who you are, and be someone else. It this I mean, it's lying. It's acting and lying for the rest of your life. It cannot be done. It is not a good. And we know this, right? Like I'm not. It's a reminder, right? Like I forget this, but the reminder is that the way of being normal is worse than being lonely, than being unappreciated, unrecognized, than I don't know, like than never having a romantic relationship ever in your life ever again, right? It is actually nicer to be alone and authentically you, trying to be yourself, trying to do your tasks, your life tasks, than it is to be in a relationship where you are pretending that you like them, that you're pretending to be a likable person for them, living in their heads. Oh, how do they want me to be? Oh, I better project this image that they enjoy. Otherwise, they'll leave me and then I'll be alone. That's way worse. It is way worse. It's not just the worst thing, it is hell on earth to do that. What does it gain a man or what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and yet to lose himself? That's in the Bible, right? And and the Bhagavad Gita says a similar thing. Better is one's own duty, though imperfectly performed, than the duty of another well performed. Right? It is better to shoddily do our own work, to poorly, to stumble and fail at being an artist, or making our jewelry, our homemade jewelry for the people, or making a bad YouTube channel, or writing articles, or whatever the thing is for you. Whatever the thing is for you, it is better to do that imperfectly, to do your own job imperfectly, than to do someone else's job perfectly. It is the authentic life, right? It is trying to attend to our unique contribution to the art of our lives. And like I've touched on, it is not easy to be ourselves. That it takes introspection and self-reflection. It takes risk, right? To make art is a risky thing. I don't know if these videos work. I don't know if they're ever gonna work. Each one could be a huge disaster, could alienate my audience. I don't know. There's no guarantees here. And there's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees that you revealing your authentic self to someone at a speed dating thing isn't going to make them. This happened to me too, by the way. I went to one speed dating thing when I was so lonely, and so many times, so many times they'd be like, oh, so do you work a lot, like what do you do, how much money do you make or something? And I'd be like, oh, I don't care about money, like I'm really lucky, like I don't need, I'm not in it for like the $1 million house or something. I I just want enough to get by, and I want to do my kind of creative stuff. And I would just get like oh, and like the conversation, like that was it. Like what, any chemistry we had, any like vibe that we were sharing, well, I made a joke and they laughed, and we were going good. I would say something like that, like something like, oh no, I don't want to make money. I don't care about that. And then it would just destroy the chemistry, and it would just be like 5 more minutes of like obligatory question answering, and then they go on and you never hear from them again. And we're gonna pay the price. This is what I'm saying. Like, there is a cost involved, and our strangeness is, if we're authentic, is gonna get us rejected, right? It just has to. And I think what we need to do is we need to accept that this is the price of eccentricity, and of being strange, and of being a unique person, which we all are. That the price is, sometimes we're going to get rejected. Sometimes people aren't going to like us. Sometimes it's not going to go well, and but that does not mean that the process is wrong, right? Like, we can have the right process but the wrong outcome. Obviously, we want everyone to like us, but we cannot do that. If there is a room full of 10 people and we want all 10 of them to like us, we will become a liar and a fraud, because we will have to become a chameleon. We'll have to turn to one person and go, yeah, I love the footy. And then someone else goes, I hate the footy. And you go, yeah, footy sucks. And then you turn to another person, they go, oh, I'm kind of indifferent about sports. And you go, yeah, you know what? I am indifferent about sports. Is this the life we want to lead? No, it is not. And I think that the reminder, which I reminded myself of this today, but when I was talking to my wife, it frees us to step into this strangeness that we are, and say, you know what? I'm willing to pay that cost. I am willing for people in my workplace to think that I'm the weird guy. That's okay, because what's the alternative? It's hell on earth. And we're strong enough, right? We've been through this. What's the Mark Twain quote? My life is full of innumerable tragedies, few of which have ever actually happened. They're all up here, dude. The main friction of our strangeness comes from our fear of being rejected. And that the reality of rejection is really not that bad. And it's especially not that bad when we know that the alternative is way worse. The alternative of chameleon life, actor life, liar life, where we try desperately to please others at in on every junction, and we lose who we are in the process. Um, yeah, anyways, that's enough from me. I hope that that is a useful reminder, because every single time I say that to someone else or I say it to myself, I remind myself that this is a weird path that I'm walking, and that that's okay, and that I have to accept that. And I become glad to accept it. So I just want to share that with you guys, because I think I think it's a really powerful thing, and I think it's helpful. So hopefully that's helpful for you. That's the thing. Um, yeah, there's a Substack. I'm writing articles. I just released one, I think yesterday, or by the time this is released, it'll be a few days ago. But that one's about anger, and what anger is for, and how we can kind of transmute anger into a more wholesome kind of thing. And it's only a little short one. It's 1,500 words or something. So it's a nice quick read. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. If you like that kind of thing, there's a Substack link below, and there's a YouTube and a Spotify link, so you can get this content the way you like it, the way that is most convenient for you. Thanks for being here on Kind Regards. I appreciate your time and your attention. I know it's valuable. Hopefully, this was helpful. Bon voyage. Thanks.